Assalamu alaikum. May peace, blessings, and mercy of Allah be upon you and to all the messengers of Allah, and in particular on the noble and final messenger, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, his family, and his companions. Let me present you the second lecture video series of CIA Part 2 Practice of Internal Auditing for all the exams beginning in 2020. We will continue our topic of Section A, managing the internal audit activity, in this video as well. Let's have a brief recap of what we studied in our previous lecture. We talked about the definition of internal auditing, nature of internal auditing's work, operational duties of Chief Audit Executive, and about the internal audit policies and the procedures. What is the role of Audit Committee regarding the external auditors? The following are the other functions of the audit committee regarding the external auditor. A. Selecting the external auditing firm and negotiating its fee. B. Overseeing and reviewing the work of the external auditor. C. Resolving disputes between the external auditor and the management. D. Reviewing the external auditor's internal control and audit reports. What does the audit manual covers? The audit manual covers everything from the internal audit charter to performance reviews and evaluations and provide guidance from planning the engagement to the final report. What does the standard 2010 planning say? The chief audit executive must establish risk-based plans to determine the priorities of the internal audit activity and to make certain that they are consistent with the organization's goals. To develop the risk based plan, the Chief Audit Executive consults with senior management and the board and obtains an understanding of the organization's strategies, key business objectives, associated risk, and risk management processes. The Chief Audit Executive must review and adjust the plan as necessary in response to changes in the organization businesses, risk operations, programs, systems, and controls. What are the characteristics of the engagement work schedule? The planning process and specific work schedules for engagements should include the following: which engagement should be performed, when engagement should be performed, the time required for each engagement, taking into account the scope of the planned engagement work and the nature and extent of related work performed by others. Which engagement should receive priority over others? What does the standard 2030 resource management say? The chief audit executive must ensure that internal audit resources are appropriate, sufficient, and effectively deployed to achieve the approved plan. Appropriate refers to the mix of knowledge, skills, and other competencies needed to perform the plan. Sufficient refers to the quantity of resources needed to accomplish the plan. Resources are effectively deployed when they are used in a way that optimizes the achievement of the approved plan. What is the responsibility of external service provider for internal auditing? When an external service provider serves as the internal audit activity, the provider must make the organization aware that the organization has the responsibility for maintaining an effective internal audit activity. What are the three lines of the defenses? A. Operational management. B. Business enabling functions. C. Internal auditors. What are the factors to consider when assigning staff to individual assignments? Some factors to consider when assigning staff to individual engagements are the complexity of the engagement, the resources that are available in the internal audit activity, the experience and skill level of the staff, the training and development needs of the audit staff. What is the internal audit budget? The size of the budget for the internal audit activity is determined by the internal audit plan, the organization structure, and the staffing strategy. The budget must include all of the activities that are needed to accomplish the objectives of the internal audit activity, including paying staff, training and staff development, hiring an external specialist as needed, any other expenses that the department will incur in the performance of its duties. What are the repercussions of hiring candidates in internal audit activity from inside the organization? Hiring from inside the organization has advantages. It is faster because the employee is already familiar with the company's policies and the procedures. There is less risk because the chief audit executive has already worked with the employee and is more aware of his or her capabilities and limitations. Hiring from within provides motivation for the internal audit activity staff to do good work and earn a promotion. If, however, the wrong people are promoted or people are promoted because of reasons other than their work skills, then hiring from inside may have a negative effect on the entire department. What are the repercussions of hiring candidates in internal audit activity from outside the organization? Hiring from outside the organization is riskier, but it also has the advantages. Number one, the outside person could bring new ideas and new perspectives to the job and the organization. Number two, the new person may have skills or experience that are not currently within the organization. Number three, management training costs could be lowered because it is assumed that the person is already qualified and will not require additional training. What does the training purpose serve? Training gives the staff the necessary skills to perform their jobs in the short term and also develop and broaden their skills for the long term development. Training should benefit the individual and also help the internal audit activity meet its organizational goals. Therefore, some staff may be trained in areas where the internal audit activity does not currently have all of the required skills, even if the staff does not have a personal interest in those areas. Also, a well developed training program is an excellent recruiting tool for the company. What does the consulting purpose serve? Counseling purpose serve? Counseling or mentoring is an important element of staff development. In a large internal audit department, there may be a formal counseling or mentoring program, and in such a situation, the chief audit executive most likely is responsible for the oversight and management of the process. Additionally, the chief audit executive may be the counselor for some of the higher level staff members in the department. What is the purpose of the performance evaluation? Performance evaluation should be made at least annually or more often if needed. The performance evaluations needed to focus on the skills that are necessary for the individual to perform his or her work and for the internal audit activity as a whole to perform its duties. These staff evaluations should be seen as a means of allowing internal audit employees to identify their weaknesses and give them an opportunity to improve their performance. The evaluation should not be based on personal likes or dislikes or other non employment related factors. What are the advantages of decentralization of internal audit department? The advantages are reduced travel time and expense, improved service in the operating locations served by the field offices, better morale of internal auditors as a result of increased authority, and the possibility of employing persons who do not wish to travel. What is the audit universe? The audit universe is the list of all possible engagements that could be performed, and the list will need to be refined over time with changes in management's objectives. There are a number of sources that the chief audit executive will use to establish the audit universe. Among them are previously performed engagements, engagements that were considered in the past but not performed for some reason, new engagements that are connected to new business lines, departments, or business activities, engagements that are legally required or newly required because of a new law or regulation, new engagements that are needed because of new technology or changes in the technologies used by the company. What is the risk assessment? Risk assessment is a systematic process for assessing and integrating professional judgments about probable adverse conditions or events. The risk assessment process should provide a means of organizing and integrating professional judgments for development of the audit plan. What are the quantitative and qualitative assessment of risk assessment? Risk assessment has both the quantitative, numerical, and qualitative characteristic factors. Quantitative assessments include the dollar value of the assets at risk or potential monetary loss, while qualitative assessments include the risk of fraudulent behavior or the importance of the section to the operations of the business as a whole. Risks are prioritized based on likelihood and impact. What are the limitations of the checklist and the questionnaires? Checklists and questionnaires are often used as part of the risk assessment process, but they have a few limitations. Number one, staff members may get a false sense of security that all issues have been addressed when the checklist is filled out. Number two, the reader of the checklist may assume that all items listed are of equal importance. Number three, the use of the checklist may weaken the professional skepticism and judgment of the auditor, who may be more attentive to a specific item listed and not to a larger picture. What are the three levels of planning of internal auditors? There are three basic levels of the planning. Number one, internal audit plan. For each period, an internal audit plan is developed that covers the planned audits of the internal audit activity during the period. This plan would be the result of the risk assessment of the entire organization. The plan would detail what engagements are planned to be performed during the period. Number two, engagement plan. For each engagement, the internal auditor develops an audit plan which is based on a detailed risk assessment of the engagement area and identifies the engagement objectives. Number three, engagement work program lists detailed procedures that should be conducted by the auditor to achieve specific audit objectives that will achieve the engagement objectives. What are assurance and consulting services? Assurance services, an objective examination of the evidence for the purpose of providing an independent assessment of governance, risk management, and control processes for the organization. Examples may include financial performance, compliance, system security, and due diligence engagements. Consulting services. Consulting services are advisory and related client service activities. The nature and scope of which are agreed with the client are intended to add value and improve an organization's governance, risk management, and control processes without the internal auditor assuming management responsibility. Examples include counsel, advice, facilitation, and training. At what levels assurance engagements can be performed? Assurance engagements can be performed at any of the following three levels: organizational, which is a department by department review; functional, which follows a single process across the organizational lines; cycle, which is primary a financial system review. Cycle level engagements have been expanded to cover non financial systems such as HR or environmental impact. What is a survey or questionnaire? Survey or questionnaires can be used when budgets are limited or if individuals who would normally participate are too widely dispersed to participate in a workshop. Survey questions need to be customized for any specific circumstances or needs, including the regulatory environment. Regardless of the type or nature of the questions, they should relate to the primary internal controls and the way in which they are monitored. Furthermore, the process owners themselves, that is, those who fill out the original questionnaire, should interpret the data after it is collected. What are the limitations of the questionnaire? Questions can sometimes be worded to suggest or imply a correct or desired answer. Such manipulative questions can pressure the respondent to give an answer that the questionnaire designer prefers rather than an honest answer. Therefore, questions should be carefully worded. Lack of interest may limit the number of questionnaires that are filled out and returned. potentially skewing results and rendering the entire exercise invalid. If the number of written questionnaires is unacceptably low, supervisors might consider gathering feedback in person because some people may dislike questionnaires but would be forthcoming in an interview. All the topics presented in this video has been taken from my CIA Part 2 Practice of Internal Auditing study book for 2020. The link to subscribe the same is mentioned in the description of the video. Please share your feedback, recommendations and the comments. Have a nice day. Take care.